So we opened this facility roughly about 8 months ago, and the idea was to provide a collaborative learning space for entrepreneurs and those in the tech community. We provide support, we provide education, but more than that, we're a co-working space. So for those women that you don't need an office yet, but you want a space to pop up, you don't want to be in Starbucks, you want to be around someone you can talk to, you can throw your ideas at, consider joining the lab. It's about $99 a month. You get a chamber membership with it, and we are an entity of the Chamber of Commerce. So let's shout out the Chamber of Commerce really big this morning. So our theme today is access and allies. So when you think about access, how do I get in the room? And then when I get in the room, how do I get at the table, in the C-suite? How do I get paid what I deserve to be paid? Because we are done with low barring ourselves, right? And so you need allies for that. So shout out to the allies in the room. Our Zach over there, our one male, we may have two males in the room. They can be allies for us. And another woman can be an ally for you. And so we want to put that in you today. If you have position, if you have space, if you have the time and talent to even help another woman, that's what we're putting out here today. Competition is not what we do. It's not even a part of who we are. It's about making sure that we are all in this together. We all bring a unique piece of talent, a skill set. And so today it's not just about tech and entrepreneurship. It's about talent, innovation. We need to understand leadership. We need to understand our role in the community and those possibilities that we can really tap into to make the river region, the state of Alabama, one of the best places to live, and so that we shake off this taboo and the stereotypes of living and working in Alabama. So we have a phenomenal lineup of talent for you today. We are going to be here until 11, as your email stated. Then we're going to go to Win Lakes for lunch, sponsored by Business Council of Alabama. We'll be with more phenomenal women. And then we're going to end the day on a high note. Bubbles and bourbon at the cigar bar. We're going to celebrate ourselves. We're going to honor our courage, the wisdom that we share. So I asked a couple things. Tag us in your photos. Tag us in any video. If you hear a speaker say something that speaks to your soul, I need you to be tweeting it. I need you to post it, because for those ladies that couldn't be in the building, we want them to get this information too, right? So we don't just hoard it for ourselves. I was thinking of something else. The word that came in my spirit when I was sitting here watching you is we are ready. Let that soak in. We are ready. The fact that you're in this room, you have poised yourself for education and enrichment, but mentorship, networking, we are ready. So we're going to kick this thing off today with a phenomenal start. We're going to have our first speaker, Ms. Jordan Franklin. I'm going to pass the mic to you. I'm going to let you introduce yourself. I thought I could read a bio, but I think you tell your story better than I could ever tell it. Jordan is here. She's an entrepreneur. She brings a great bit of talent, skill set, fortitude that it takes. So today we honor you, Jordan, and we appreciate you sharing your time with us. Welcome to the podium.
All right. Hi, I'm Jordan. I am Stratus. So I'll give a little bio about myself. Not from Montgomery. I moved here when I was 22. I started a company called Stratus. We do IT staffing. So it's kind of a little bit about me. I don't do a good bio either, so we'll get into it, I promise. From a town of 72 people in the middle of nowhere. How about that? Worked my way up. So access and allies, I think, is a great thing. I literally talk to people every single day, like from behind a desk, from in front of from the other side of the desk, face to face, normally men. And I think growing up in the South and then moving to Alabama, and you gotta sit in front of a man most of the time to get in IT, to get where you gotta go, right? And you gotta make them your ally, right? You gotta make them realize, hey, how can I help? How can I move her up? Or how can I put her where she needs to go? right? And you gotta make them your ally. And then you gotta show them that you're the smartest person in the room too. Go. Are we good? Okay. All right. So let's back up. I think that we've all sat there. We've all been that little girl who knew exactly what we wanted to do, what the aisle looked like, what our dress was going to look like, what our day was going to be, right? Well, that's our life, right? All we have to do is envision everything. Who needs to be in that room? Who is that person? Who's our hype man? Who is our ally? Make sure that they're at the table to be our hype man. That's all you have to do. My hype man's sitting right next to me. All right? She hype girl. I call her behind. I call her about everything. Any big meeting, she's there. She could drive me to that meeting. She did last night. And she's gonna hype me up on the way there. I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna do what I need to do, and then afterwards, I'm gonna have a glass of wine and be like, "Ooh, girl, come here, be out of it." Just like I'm gonna do here in just about 2 seconds. But you have to have that person, and that's your ally, right? Now you gotta have the access. So getting your foot in the door, sitting there. She might even be in the door with you, or he. They might be sitting there with you, but they're going to be the person that you debrief with afterwards, right? You just have to be there. You just want to be sitting at the table. So how do we get there, right? We just have to be prepared. Be the most prepared. Be the best. How do we do that? We have to be better than every other person. In IT, we call it a SME, right? I'm your subject matter expert. You need a job? I'm your girl. I got you. I know where they are, what they do, what manager is crazy, and who you don't want to work for. All right? I know where it is. I know what ghosts hide where, and you're going to come to me. I'll look over your offer because I've looked at hundreds of them. And I'll do it even if it doesn't make me money, because allies is a 50-50 partnership, right? She talked about mentorship. Not really my thing, right? Because I want an equal partnership. I want you to be my equal. I want to pour into you just as much as you pour into me. I want you to sit there and be my equal. I can't sit there and just pour into you because you're going to pour into me too. I can't just be your mentor. I need you to be my ally. I need you to contribute to me just as much as I'm contributing to you. And that's true leadership, right? So when we're talking about leadership, everyone talks about the tree, right? We want to pour into the roots and so that the leaves grow and everything like that, right? When we're pouring nutrients into someone, the leaves are growing. Well, that means you're pouring nutrients into me too, right? So that being said, that's what I think allyship is, right? It's true 50-50 leadership, right? I'm here, I'm your hype man just as much as you're my hype man. So when we go through mentorship, it's a great word. I think it's an old word. I think we're like good 15 years past that. And I think we need to move on to allyship, right? How do we get diversity and inclusion at every table, in every board? How do we sit there? How are we the most powerful person? Well, we've got to be the SME, right? And we've got to make sure that we're placing the right person and the right cultural fit. We, cumulatively, are placing the right person and the right cultural fit on every board and doing it intentionally. And that's a group effort, right? I'm not the right person for a football board. That's not me, right? But I'm definitely the right person for the junior arts board. I'll tell you every single artist you want to know. That's me. But we've got to know who that is, right? Everyone has their own special skill set. And we've just got to, for lack of a better term, we've got to exploit that in our area, right? So that's kind of how I see access and allies. Now, my ally being Reagan, I think I was a good ally for Reagan too. But your ally doesn't have to be in the same industry you're in either, right? I mean, I think there's multiple allies in the room. I can point out quite a few of them. And they go all around, right? So it really just depends on who and where you are, right? You've got to find someone in each industry, each vertical, where you are, who you are, and it also changes in your lifetime, right? So you might have a hype person in your 20s, and then you might have a hype person in your 30s, and that might change, right? So we've got to figure out who that is, where we want to go, but you need to have your clear vision, right? So what's my vision? Where am I going? Who's the right hype person? Who's going to sit there with me? And have a game plan, just like you did when you were that little girl, right? Where am I going? Down an aisle. What's my dress look like? It's white. My flowers are blue, right? So you've got to set that out for yourself too, every single day. Where am I going? To Montgomery. Who's my hype person? Reagan. Who's in the car with me? Reagan. Where am I going? To Hamster. What am I drinking? Wine. So but you gotta have your game plan, right? Every day, very intentional, and know exactly where you're going, right? So for me in my life, where am I going? I'm gonna be present. How am I gonna get there? I'm gonna talk to every single person and tell them I'm gonna be present. And I'm going to do what? I'm gonna tell every single person I'm gonna be present. And then I'm going to talk to every single political person and tell them I'm going to be president. And so then maybe I'll get on some text messages with the president. So I can be the president and sitting in the room with the president. So you just have to be that intentional, right? I was in a meeting one time, literally told someone that, put me on a text message string with not the president, shocker, but with all of the senators for the state. And I was that intentional that I got a meeting with all of them. So if you're that intentional and know exactly what you want, where you're going, and how to get there, and you say it enough with conviction, you're gonna get there, right? Because someone knows someone, and they're going to help. Because you say it enough, someone's going to listen. They can't sit there and not do anything. Because our innate want is to help. And that's the best thing about humans, right? Because some of us are just not great, but most of us want to help. Most of us want to be there and want to say, what can I do for you? How can I be there? How can I help you? What do you need today? You look like you're having a rough day. How can I lift you? And then you turn that around 2 years later and say, how can I lift you? And it's on a day that I'm having a crappy day. It's perfect, right? But not every relationship has to be, what about me, right? Most of the time it's, what about you? How can I help you, right? But if you put out what you want, enough times someone's going to say, how can I help you? How can I help you? How can I get you there? And that might just be the staffing person in me, because I like to say, where are we going in your career today? Anyone need a new job? I got some. But we innately want to help. So when you put it out there enough, you're going to find the access and the allies and the people that want to sit there and pull you to the table and put you in the right spot, right? Because when the person's sitting at the table going, just can't find the right person for this seat, It's because people are sitting there scared and not saying, I want to be in that seat. I want to be there. I want to sit there. I'm the right person for that seat. It's because the person hasn't spoken up. So speak up. Say it. I want to be there. I'm the right person for that seat. I want to be there. I want to sit there. I'm loud and driven. And I have no fear of saying where I want to be. But that's what they need. That's what we have to do. We have to be our own advocates. I mean, maybe that's the rest of the sentence, right? Access, allies, our own advocate. Right? Because you also have to be your own advocate. I can give you access, I can be your ally, but you also have to, once you get there, be your own advocate. And you have to be there, and you have to say, this is what I want to do, this is how I'm going to do it, smart enough to do it, and I can do it better than you. Because X, Y, and Z, and I'm your C. I'm done.
Okay, I'm taking copious notes, so I'm going to give you some feedback. This is what I heard.
I started off rough.
No, everybody needs a hype woman. Y'all agree?
Yeah.
All right, my hype woman is in the crowd. Raise your hand, Vicki. We go hard for each other, and you need that accountability. You need the advocacy, but you also need a truth teller, because sometimes we don't like to hear the truth. And so if I wasn't my best self, she'll call me on it and say, hey, you probably could have said that a little bit better, or you could have been a little bit more prepared. All right, allyship. I'm here for it. And so while we talk about mentoring, and we even have ourselves postured for a conversation on allyship, how do you sit in a room and be an ally for someone? I saw a post on Instagram that said, in a room full of opportunities, I'm going to mention some names. If it's someone that has a skill set that maybe is not your skill set, or you're not fit for the job, every job is not for you. Every contract is not for you. Every position is not for you. But how do you make sure that you have that ally that's going to speak your name in a room? And then if you're not ready to do that, you have to be truthful with yourself. Why can't I do that? And then go back and work on you. Because I know for me and the women that are in my squad or in my sphere of influence, if I got it, they got it. And so we have to be that way for each other. Okay, Jordan, here's something else. Equal pouring. I love that. Because we know that if we're always pouring and they're always taking, it's going to be an empty cup. And so we don't talk enough about being selfish about what we need, whether that's motherhood, whether that's a profession, whether that's a career. Equal pouring. You mentioned be your best advocate. Be your own advocate. So while someone can advocate for you all day, if you're not out there fighting for yourself and putting yourself in uncomfortable places, and one of my favorite quotes is, be comfortable with being uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable 90% of the time. I just be winging it. God is going to make a way. And I'm going to study and show myself approved, but you have to be okay with being afraid. The room just went so quiet. Fearless? Not so much. It's okay to experience fear. Experience it and keep going and look it in the face. So these points were so telling and so refreshing. So I'll try to provide a recap for us after each speaker. We're going to move on to a conversation about innovation. So we know that we are living in a digital age. We can't run from it. We can't hide from it. It is knocking us down. COVID taught us that from a professional standpoint. Most of us were working from home, or we started a business online. Digitizing your world is going to be so key to your success. So whether that's how you book appointments, whether that's your time. I spoke to someone that said, I said, hey, we need to do a meeting. And she was like, oh, book me. Here's my link. I like it. I like it. And someone may say, well, that's not so personable. There are ways to put personality in what you do, but time is so critical. I used to say money was my greatest commodity. It's my time. and you're not going to waste my time.
Right.
We're going to be intentional with our time. So when you talk about digitizing your life, getting things on schedules, how do you plan your day? All of this comes under technology, but innovation is a whole nother conversation. And I'm not even going to attempt to address it. I'm going to take some key outliers, but we're going to bring Martha Underwood up. And Martha's going to tell us about herself, but I'm just excited to meet the Martha Underwood. I've been hearing all of this great stuff about her. So Martha, will you come up and talk to us about tech and innovation?
That's a new one for me, the Martha Underwood. Tell my boys that. So I'm Martha Underwood, and I am a tech executive. And I'm here to tell you that the future is absolutely digital. I have a front row seat to it. Everyone in here has their phones. They're on their phones, they're checking emails. It's how we interact. It's how we communicate with people these days. Even in our homes, we now have interactive television screens. And so that is going to inform the way we interact with businesses. I'm not even going to touch on new technology, emerging technologies like blockchain or the Metaverse or AI, because that's coming too. But as it relates to where we stand today in our businesses, how are we leveraging technology? Let's talk about the numbers. Let's talk about the numbers. In 2019, the statistics show that 7 billion people own mobile devices. 7 billion. And the average amount of time that an adult spends on their mobile device is 4 hours. In 2019, that was the first time that it exceeded watching television. So people are on their phones more than they are watching television. They're consuming all of this information. Why is that important? Why is that so important? Because technology has influenced the way we live. It has influenced the way we shop, the way we consume information, the way we interact with companies, the way we learn, and the way we bank. Like, I know I haven't gone into a bank in how long? I mean, we all use our phones for it, and COVID has accelerated that because we weren't able to be in person. So we all depended on our mobile devices or our computers on how do we interact with companies, how do we get services, how do we purchase just everyday groceries, right? So many companies have leveraged that technology, and as a small business owner, that shows us the criticality of having a digital presence. Why? Because your digital presence is your front door to your business. People need to know how to find you, how to interact with you, how to be a patronage of your services, right? But to really drive home how important this is, I'm going to invite Shella Silla up to the stage. Shella is a small business owner. She's an entrepreneur, and she is the owner of Sister Golf. And I'm going to talk to her about how she leveraged technology to make sure that her company continues to thrive and how she was able to thrive through COVID. So welcome to the stage, Shella. Thank you for joining us today. First, I'm going to ask you, Shella, tell me a little bit about what Sister Golf is.
Sure, thank you. And good morning, everyone, and thanks for having us. So, the mission for Sister Golf was really to teach women business professionals how to leverage the sport of golf for networking, access, proximity to business leaders and decision makers who can give you opportunities to grow your business, get more business deals, and take advantage of opportunities for growth within your company.
So wow. So when I think of golf, I think of going out on the course and being outside, right? And then if you're teaching, with COVID, you weren't able to do that. How did you leverage technology? And how important was technology for you to be able to be successful with Sister Golf?
Well, I felt it was critically important to have a digital presence because when I started Sister Golf 9 years ago, no one really thought of using golf as a business development tool specifically for women. It was something that men typically did for networking purposes. But when you think about business development, or when I introduced Sister Golf to people, I had boots on the ground, I was out networking, telling people what we were and who we were and what we did. People really just thought, oh, is this just some organization that teaches women how to play? And it wasn't a girls' golf group. What it was more so was a business development tool to help women leverage the sport to get more business the same way men have been doing for such a long time. And people did not understand that. So I needed a digital presence to give them background information on what services specifically we provided. We taught you the sport, but we also taught you the business side of it. How do you build a rapport? How do you gain trust? So that people come to you and say, oh, I want to use her attorney services, or I want to use her accounting services, because people do business with who they know, like, and trust, and you need to be able to develop that. And this was a great way to do it. And people have been, and men have been doing it for so long, and we were self-excluding and leaving ourselves out. So when I told people about it, they didn't get it immediately, but they had somewhere to go where they can get digital information. So it took me several iterations of the website to really get that message across clearly, because I felt like messaging was very important. So people would walk away after I had a conversation with them thinking, oh, you know, she just lays how to golf, or oh, she's a golf instructor. But when they went to the website and got more information, then they understood there was so much more to it, because I would then get phone calls. Oh my God, I didn't know that's what you guys did. It's so much more than just learning the sport. It's how do I leverage it from a career standpoint that actually turns into something tangible and beneficial for my business, my growth trajectory, promotion opportunities, and for me to be able to provide even a better living for my family. So that was sort of the game changer, and that's why technology played a key role for me, because I needed that digital presence to really drive home and tell the story.
Awesome. So I know technology can be daunting. Like, people are like, it's too hard to create a website, to maintain a website. But there are several tools today that you can use, and you can be up and running by the end of the day, or a couple of hours. There's Wix, there's Shopify, there's WordPress, there's YouTube videos to be able to show you how to get online quickly. But in addition to having a website, a business site, it's critical to have a social media presence, right? How do you leverage social media in order to have people know who you are and get to know you and trust your business? So Shella, I know that you have a really good social media presence. You have Twitter, you have Facebook, you have Instagram. Why is it critical to also brand yourself as well as Sister Golf on social media platforms?
It's important because people want to know that there's a person behind the business, and they don't just want to communicate with a business entity. They want to see personality. They want to get to know the person behind the business that they're dealing with. And as you know, visibility equals credibility. If they see you constantly, it sort of lays the groundwork for establishing that trust. Like, oh, this is a tangible, real business out here in the community, and they see you in different lights. And it's not only from a professional standpoint, getting to know you from a personal standpoint. People almost feel like they're your friend. I've had so many people come up to me that I don't know that would say, oh, you're Sister Golf. They won't even say my name. But then they feel like they already have some sort of relationship with me because they've seen me not only out in person, out in the community, doing different things, but they've also seen me on Facebook. They've seen me on Instagram. Like she said, I'm on Twitter, on all the social media channels, so much so, and on LinkedIn. And just because you're not getting the likes, never feel like people aren't paying attention. When I was living in Charlotte, North Carolina, I had developed a really good relationship with the small business market president for Wells Fargo. And he's now out in DC. And I remember having a conversation with him recently, and he said to me, Shella, you didn't post this week. I was like, well, yeah, I missed a week because I was sick, I was down, I didn't get my posts out like I normally do. And he never likes the post. And so I was surprised that he had been following and paying attention to me. And he says, no, I don't like it, but I share it with my team. I share it with the professional women that are on my team. And I had no idea. So that just lets you know. So a lot of times we're looking at, did we get enough likes, or did somebody, click on it, or did somebody comment? And you don't have to worry about that, ladies. I promise you, people are paying attention, people are watching, and if you're putting out good content, they're benefiting from it as well. So being on social media was a real game changer for me, because not doing so, I don't think I would have the depth, the reach that I have. And I don't think that my brand would be as, and not to say that I have a huge brand, but I don't think that we would be where it is now. Because not only in the Birmingham market, people in other markets know the brand and are familiar with it and speak to it, which I'm really proud of. It took a long time to get there. But what I want to encourage everyone here is to not give up. And if you don't see the results immediately, that does not mean it's not happening, because it absolutely is.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shella, for sharing your story with us. I'm going to, because I'm a techie, I just can't help it. I'm going to challenge everyone in the room to think about emerging technology. Because I sit in a lot of rooms, especially being in technology that's male-driven, like you talked about. It's all males around the table. And the men and the guys are thinking about the future. And specifically, they're thinking about how to make money in the metaverse. And a lot of people are like, what's the metaverse? Right? Metaverse is just basically a virtual world that you can interact in. And if you're watching what's happening and what's trending, you are seeing that Nike and Under Armour and some of these large companies are digitally trademarking, their images so that they can sell it within the metaverse. You'll also hear the future belongs to creatives. Right? And people are like, what does that mean? What does that mean? Well, what it means is, if I'm an interior decorator, I can create several different looks, on different rooms, whether it's rustic, whether it's modern, and then digitize that and then sell it in the metaverse so that people can apply it to their homes. If I'm an architect, I can build, concepts and be able to digitize that and sell it in the metaverse. If you are a realtor, think about how you will sell and buy property in the metaverse. If you're an attorney, what does that look like? What does the contract look like? Because these are digital assets that now are being sold. There was a report that came out about a month ago that there was this house in Tampa that was sold as an NFT. Completely took everyone out the game. Like, no realtors involved, no banks. When they bought that NFT, they pretty much bought the deed to that home. So I want us to be thinking about, how do I translate what I do today to be able to be leveraged and monetized in the metaverse, right? There's so much data out there, and I can talk about this for hours. But I see that women are getting left behind, and we're the creatives. I'm looking at my sister right here, and I'm like, I need her to style me. I need to be styled, right? And because that's where we're going, we're gonna look at that, and then also look to your children. I have 2 boys. They're always on Fortnite buying skins. All that is a look, right? And they're making millions of dollars off of that. And with all of the creative brilliance that we have as women, to be able to create those and partner with gaming companies and partner with some of the technology companies, and to be able to say, here is what my unique style is. Here's what my value proposition is as a realtor, as an interior decorator, as an attorney, as a doctor. I was talking to a doctor the other day, a plastic surgeon, and he was saying, how can I leverage, what I do in the metaverse? I was like, easy. You redesign, you make people fat. You can create all kinds of skins. You can give me a big butt, and be able to sell those, right, in the metaverse. And people are thinking about that. So if you don't hear anything else today, I want you to think about, how will you thrive leveraging technology, the technology of tomorrow, because it's here today. It is absolutely here today. Thank y'all for y'all time today. I don't know if we have time for questions or what we're doing, but I'm gonna pass the mic back and go from there.
Okay, thank you
Thank you, Nicole.
All right, I was taking more copious notes. All right, so let's debrief. First of all, social media branding. So a lot of us, I was watching the facial expressions. Some of y'all are like, I don't have time. That can be digitized. You can schedule your post. People buy from who they know, love, and trust. Even if it's not a product, good, or service, they build relationships with people they can trust. So we know that your digital footprint is important. So for all of you cringing, they're saying, I don't want to be posting, you gotta post, all right? What about this one? Technology has influenced every area of our lives. If we didn't see it in COVID-19, and for me, the lifeline was being able to check on family and friends via social media. You know, because I may not have had the capacity to do it via phone or even doing it through Zoom or some type of technology. But I want to talk about the Metaverse conversation. And I just want to shout out Zach, one of our allies in the room. Zach, wave your hand, please. So Zach is a member of the lab. This is why you need to be a member here. I'm just going to throw that out there. And Zach is all things technology and innovation. And I was telling Zach, I said, hey, I have this nonprofit and it's located in Africa. What can we do virtually? He said, well, come on in. Let me teach you about the Metaverse. And for nearly an hour, he demonstrated how we could simultaneously conduct sessions with the girls in Africa while being present in a digital space, and we were all these little animated type of people. Now, is that uncomfortable? Yes, because it's new. But if we're gonna be lifelong learners and committed to our growth and development, we have to lean into this technology. And Zach, since you gave the tutorial, I have been in the Metaverse, y'all. I've been playing around. I went in some man's room. I ran out real quick because I was like, I don't know what he can do with his machine, so let me go. But we can make virtual spaces. And when you think about that and the power, the innovation that you can drive, whether you're in entrepreneurship, whether you work for a company, whether you're working on your side hustle, this is massive. This is huge, and it's coming for us. And I refuse to let any man outsmart me. What you will not do is outsmart me. I'm gonna be ready. We are ready. I'm gonna be prepared, and I'm going to be ready for that pivot when we start talking Metaverse in these rooms. And so I was telling my older son, he's like 26, I was like, do you know about the Metaverse? He was like, Mom, you late, I've been knowing about it. I was like, well, I do too now. So that's so important that even as we attract clients that are younger or in different age brackets, how do we speak or the language? We have to know the language, and we have to have transferable skills. So we are going to pivot for a moment, take a break. This has been so good, it's so fueling. We're gonna turn up the music. For those ladies that did not have an opportunity to get your photo taken in this bomb photo suite over here, get it done quickly. We have like 5 to 10 minutes, grab a mimosa. Hydration station, there's some food in the back. We're gonna take 10, and then we're gonna come back, and then we're gonna talk about creativity and health and wellness, because we cannot do this if we're not well. See you back at 10. We're going to move forward with a conversation on creativity, and we have Valerie Lawson from WSFA who will talk to us about creativity. Valerie?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I know I'm not the only one in the room. This has been great, hasn't it?
Yes.
I mean, I've learned a lot. And I've already posted on Facebook. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, I got to do my selfie. Okay, because I got to have social proof, right? All right, so everybody in the room. Cheers. All right, we are ready. Thank you guys so much. Let everybody know where I've been all day. Well, my name is Valerie Lawson, and I am so happy to be here with you all today. Let's give Dr. Nicole Thompson a round of applause for sitting here. I am a journalist, and if you look at the word in the dictionary, you'll see a person who writes for newspapers, magazines, or news websites, or prepares news for broadcasting. That would be me. But what it doesn't tell you is that we are storytellers. Every day we are handed facts and figures about a person, place, or event, and we've got to take that information and weave it into a story. And it's how most of us remember things, through the stories that we tell. And who doesn't like a good story? So when I thought about what I would talk to you about today, I realized something, that we all have something in common, and that we are creatives. We are motivated by power to persuade and gain trust. And that's why knowing how to cultivate creativity through our message is so important. Your message is your brand. It's what you stand for. It's what people talk about when you're not in the room. In business, you must convince customers or clients to buy your company's products or services. If you're an educator, you're always trying to win over students and colleagues to learn a new strategy or plan or reorganization. And every day in news, we're trying to gain your trust through informing you about something, educating you about something, or entertaining you about something that's happening in our community, our city, our state, the country, wherever. And all of this takes creativity. And it sounds easy, right? Right? Sounds pretty easy. But when you consider, when it comes to the critical importance of being creative and persuasive, most people just can't do it. They struggle to communicate, let alone inspire. Because cultivating that creativity means giving more of yourself. Instead, this is what we do. We hide behind what I like to call company speak. You know, those PowerPoint slides, those dry memos, and even those carefully crafted statements from corporate communications departments. You know, sometimes our bios are stale and stiff. Well, the truth is, the best way to engage listeners is to toss the PowerPoints and tell a good story. A story that comes from your deepest core, a story that is creative, a story that is personal. Now, a few years ago, I was watching this movie called The Last Word. It starred Shirley MacLaine. And she plays an old, widowed socialite who decides to write her own obituary. Well, the scene shows her sitting alone at a table having breakfast, going over the obituary section in the newspaper. And she's reading the last words of friends who have passed on. Well, as she reads, she comes across this glowing commentary of a woman she apparently knew. And you can see she's surprised to read the wonderful words that are now part of her friend's legacy. So even in death, you can also sense there is some competition between these two women. So MacLaine's character comes up with an idea. She decides to hire the same person responsible for writing her friend's obituary to write hers. Now, the movie got me thinking about the art of storytelling in shaping our legacy. As women in business, you must be concerned about what people are saying about you and your business. What they are saying about your products, your services, your performance as a leader, who's telling your story, and why are they telling your story? How are you being portrayed in the community? And what does your story say about you? Well, it turns out we learned that Shirley MacLaine's character was a businesswoman. She had causes that she cared about, and her passion was her family. So, again, I ask you, what does your story say about you? How many of you have ever seen the show American Idol? And I know you're watching The Voice because that's on NBC. And these days, any reality show that you can think of. Well, the producers are really skilled at creatively pulling you into the lives of their contestants or their cast members through storytelling. American Idol is an excellent example. The stories are about what brought the contestants to the show, the challenges they face, every day and what winning that show will mean to them. And those stories are personal, they're reactionary, because once you hear them, you immediately cheer for the person you identify with, right? Shout out to Alabama native and Alabama A&M graduate Ruben Studdard, winner of the second season of American Idol. I feel responsible for his success because I voted for him many times. Benjamin Franklin once said, either write something worth reading or do something worth writing. Rely on your personal experience to create stories that people want to hear. And include the good, the bad, and the ugly, because your worst can help someone else be at their best. People want the opportunity to identify with you. They want to know who you are, what you're about. They want to be able to say, hey, she's just like me, or I'm with her. Often when I sit down with people for an interview, they quickly say, so what are you going to ask me? And my answer is nothing you don't already know, because your story is your story. A few years ago, I created something called Newsmakers Academy. It was an online platform that taught business owners, experts, entrepreneurs, and authors how to get media coverage. Well, one day I was working with one of my newsmakers who wasn't getting much traction on a press release she had sent out about a book she had written. It was a motivational book to help women move through any crisis in their life. So I did a quick assessment and learned she had left out the best part of her story. I asked her, why did you write the book? Well, many women need help getting over obstacles after going through a tragedy. Well, why should you be the one to help them? Well, I just knew I had a book in me and I just wanted to share it. So why should I care about your book? At this point, she just became so frustrated, she just finally said, what do you want me to say? I said, I need your story. Turns out, her husband died while serving in the military in Germany. She was a young mother with a small child, and she was left with few options. She packed up and moved back to Montgomery to live with her parents until she could decide her future. That was her story. That was her why. Well, after a few tweaks to her press release, I also challenged her to write 7 ways women could move past obstacles in their life. So she immediately resent out the press release, and I wasn't surprised when she called and said she had landed an interview. And of course, I was eager to watch. So I was sitting in the tire shop of a business, and another woman was in there with me, and we were watching the interview. And Pam was talking about her struggles, and she immediately looked up from what she was doing to listen, the woman who was in there with me. And during the interview, you could see the woman kind of nodding her head to say, oh, okay, I get it. So that was a clear indication to me that storytelling works. Pam was able to create a connection and possibly sell some books at the same time. To start a business, you must have more than just an idea. You gotta have capital. But without a clear, defined message that communicates to your potential client what you have to offer, your business will fail. In fact, according to an article in Small Business Trends, bad marketing plans top the 3 reasons a business just won't do well. Your message is considered critical to your creative process. So the first rule of defining your message is to know your audience and how you can serve them. And I'm not talking about knowing everyone who's in the room, but you must know the common factor that brings them together. In the award-winning TV series, The People vs. O.J. Simpson, which I have watched many times, there was a scene where Johnny Cochran, played by Courtney B. Vance, was talking to his defense team, and they were strategizing on how they would defend O.J. Simpson. And he said, the most important thing is the story. We need to be able to tell a more credible story. We need to gather the jury around a fire and tell a better story. Now, when I heard that, I immediately stopped the TV and I had to write it down because it is so true. With so much competition to be heard and seen, you just gotta tell a better story. So it's important that you start with the end in mind. Make sure you can answer their question, which is, why am I here? What can you do for me? Your purpose is to give your audience or your clients value and to assure them that you can help them through truth, through answers and solutions, all weaved into a relatable message. That's why I always encourage people to share their story, who you are and your why. Your audience wants to know you are just like them and that you share similar experiences. And when that happens, your audience will like you. They will feel like they know you, and most of all, they will feel like they can trust you. How you started, how you live it, and how you end up is all up to you. Now, my grandfather had a knack for telling stories. He was a Christian man who had a 6th grade education, and he raised 5 children along with my grandmother. One of my favorite stories he liked to tell was about an old gambling buddy. Some of you all have heard this story before. He said every Friday and Saturday night, this friend would gamble and drink until the morning light. But one Sunday morning, he said, something happened. He said that he arrived at church, and to his surprise, he saw his gambling friend sitting in the pulpit at church. And he later learned his friend was the guest speaker. So of course, this was a little puzzling to my grandfather because he just saw his old buddy hanging out the night before, doing his thing. So when my grandfather walked in the church, he caught his buddy's eye from the back. And I can just imagine it going something like this. My grandfather was about this high. And his buddy started to look a little bit nervous. And just as my grandfather stood up to ask, "What are you doing?" his friend quickly rose and said, "The name of my sermon is, if you know me, say nothing. I will see you." Now, my grandfather always said the moral of the story is it is never too late to turn your life around. And I always say it's never too late to create a new narrative. Now, as I leave you this morning, everyone has a story. And how are you motivating or inspiring others through what you do? In this room right now, there is a story that needs to be told. But because of fear, because of shame, no one will ever hear it. Believe it or not, someone needs to hear your story. Someone is waiting for the impact your story will bring. Your story could motivate someone to start a business, move past an obstacle, get the help they need, or, who knows, they could simply walk away feeling good that they know you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, debriefing time. So here's a few takeaways. It's never too late to create a new narrative. Wow, that was powerful. Telling your story is a part of shaping your legacy. What will they say about you, the work that you did? Tell a better story. And then this was one of my favorites. Someone is waiting on your story. Someone is waiting to hear how you did what you did so it can fuel encouragement in them. How you live, how you walk out your career, or whatever your trajectory is, telling a story is so important. And one of the last points that just really spoke to me was your message is critical for defining your world. So we're all storytellers. And then so this connects to our messaging on our social media. Everything doesn't have to be about an event. It doesn't have to be about some life occurrence, but we have platforms that we can begin to tell our stories. And there's so much power in that. Thank you so much, Valerie. So we are going to prepare for our final presentation on health and wellness. I want to tell you that these names and QR codes that you're seeing on the screens are women that are a part of this event and that have contributed in some form or fashion. So every single vendor that we purchase breakfast from, a mimosa, camera equipment, florist, video services, was from a woman in business. So shout out to the women that are in this river region, in this state. Want to shout out Be Grace Media Can you all stand? They are responsible for the communications, the in-depth planning. And where is Sharice? Did she already leave? Sharice is my co-conspirator. And so we have come up with these events and carefully curated this time. I hope that it has been enriching for you. I hope that it just sparked a fire, because we're going to transcend. When we leave this event, we're going to go to lunch, and we're going to be fueled by even more women across the state. The governor will give some remarks, but we'll stand, and BCA calls it side by side, with a larger room of women. And then, as I mentioned, we'll come back after lunch, and then we'll have some fun, and we'll have some bourbon and bubbly. And if you are a cigar smoker, you can do what you do, and we're just going to have a good time. So I want to bring up Elias Snell, who will give us comments and presentation on health and wellness, which I consider just such a vital piece to all of this, because we all have these dreams, these visions. We're moving the needle, we're sitting at tables, we're doing a lot, but we have to take care of our mental health and our physical health. Elia?
Hey guys, so I would come up after Valerie Lawson, so that's awesome. But thank you, Nicole. My name is Elias Snell, and I'm a children's therapist here in town. I work at the Family Sunshine Center, so just down the street. And for those who aren't fully familiar with the Family Sunshine Center, we work with victims and survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, various forms of trauma. So I get to work with the kiddos, and they're actually really fun. Kids are so much more fun than adults, no offense, but they are. So I do have the pleasure of talking to you guys today about health and wellness, but more specifically that mental health component. Now, I'm a therapist. I'm not going to sit up here and teach you how to breathe and be calm and go through your day and everything's going to be great. It's very beneficial. It works. It's important. But I want to talk more about the aspects of our overall wellness that we don't really think about too much. Kind of like those little things we can do throughout the day to kind of help boost that mental health. Emotional wellness, that's a really big one. And our speakers before me have actually mentioned a lot of these components. Specifically, just like the ability to understand ourselves, be able to cope with challenges that life brings. Part of this is the acknowledgement part. So let's just kind of stop, take a minute, and how do we feel? I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm stressed out, I'm overwhelmed, I'm running my own company, I'm speaking to the state. You know, there's so much going on. We just kind of need to stop and acknowledge it, feel it, give it a name, and give it a voice. So what do I mean by this? Kind of this concept of it's okay not to be okay. We've heard that. I think more lately, because of the pandemic, mental health has definitely kind of taken the stage. The whole concept of it's okay not to be okay is that pure factor of acknowledgement. We can't do it all. We act like it. We do it all. But inside, we're just like, I'm burnt out. So we have to acknowledge that and feel it. Even the good aspects. Like I said, feeling happy, feeling proud, coming to a workshop today to better yourself and build yourself, speaking today, be proud of it. All those little aspects in your life, you have to acknowledge it. Give it a name and give it a voice. To-do lists. Who likes lists? I'm a list person. Big list person. I try to do like 10 things at once and it doesn't really work. In my mind, if I'm doing 10 things at once, I'm like being productive. I'm not. So I like to write things down on a list. So that's the give it the name. Put it down on the list. We might have 10 things, 15 things, 20 things. We might only get 2 things done, 3 things done. But the act of striking off that list or doing your little check mark, that's letting you see it. I've done that. I didn't do 20 things. I don't do 20 things. But I did 2 things. I sure enough got those things done. I met the deadline I needed to do that day, and it was enough for me. I probably had 15 other things come up that wasn't on my list that I had to take care of. Be okay with that. Applaud yourself from that. Because if you don't, who else will? Jordan, I think you mentioned about being your own advocate. In counseling and as a therapist, we work as advocates for other people. We cannot forget to be our own advocate. Because, like I said, if you don't do it, who else will do it? We have to build our own self up. We're pretty good at it. So, balancing emotional wellness with mental health. is also having the ability to talk to somebody about your emotional concerns, share your deep feelings. I think everybody should have a therapist, but what do I know? But really, it's important to identify those people, those groups, those organizations in your life to where you can get poured into. Because if you're empty, what else do you have to give? If you stretch yourself thin, what else do you have to give? So you got to build yourself up. Find your hype woman, find your hype man. You covered a lot of things I was talking about. Find somebody who you can rely on. We mentioned interior decorating. I'm not the best at that. I got my office covered, but not my house covered. I need somebody for that. I have a friend for that. So I talked to her about it. Somebody to dress us. Okay, so we look good and we feel good. Somebody we rely on, somebody we can go to spiritually and be built up and poured back into. We are strong, empowered women, but to get there, we need to rely on our allies, our connections, our networks. Pour into those so you can be poured into. This concept of social wellness is building those meaning and supportive relationships with people or groups, our allies. We're made to be around people, even introverted people. We're made to be around people. We work with people, we live with people, we provide services to people or products, agencies. We're built to serve almost. Even if you work by yourself, you're still communicating to people or businesses to get you to the next level. So we're always around relationships. So how do we maximize this to promote our overall well-being, promote ourselves? The biggest thing, and you will always hear me say all the time, is boundaries. I talk about boundaries daily. I get paid to do it. But boundaries are really important. One of those things is saying no when we can't do anything more. Saying no is really hard, especially when that thing is appealing to you. But sometimes we just don't have the time for it. Sometimes we don't have the space for it, like mentally, pun intended. But you have to say no sometimes. Say no for yourself, but then also say no for others. So like within your family, maybe we can't add that extracurricular activity, or maybe we can't add that extra event or time because we need that time for ourselves. Another thing is, like I mentioned earlier, is identifying those individuals or groups. Find your people, find your groups, and get connected, get plugged in, so you can build yourself. Use that selfish aspect. Don't use your friends, but utilize them. You find out what you need from who you need. It's a 50-50, I'm not trying to quote everything you say, but 50-50 relationship. It just tied in very well to incorporating our allies and our networks together. Your coworkers. Y'all, we are at work more than we are at home sometimes. Our coworkers become our families. Sometimes you leave that person in the office by themselves. But most of the time, you build on the relationships of people who are like-minded, like you. So your coworkers, you guys are literally living for the same thing. Rely on them. Rely on them to pour into you. We all have different views of a project or a case. Working in trauma, it can be really heavy sometimes. And all of us have different ages of kids and different cases, different levels of trauma. But each component that we work with, another therapist can use. I had a problem the other day with a client that I was just like, you guys, I'm stumped. I don't know where to go from here. They're not talking to me, or they're not saying this factor that I know is going on. And then another therapist is like, well, just do this, just blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, I didn't think about that. But what works for them works for me. What works for me may not work for someone else. But I'm going to be there to help them in case they need it, in case they can apply it later, or store it because I want to pour into someone else, just like they're pouring into me. We were talking briefly earlier about transitioning from your workplace or from being at home. A lot of us are at home. Gosh, we're almost like in our third year of this pandemic, which is crazy. So our homes became our work, which made that work-home balance a lot harder. A lot of us did pretty great at it. They kind of got to their groove of things. We had more free time, more leeway. You know, you could go grocery shop, you can prep things. Some people got to keep their kids home and spend more time with their kids, which is awesome. But now we're kind of going back into this workforce. Some people were really motivated during the pandemic and were able to start things, which is awesome. Now we're back in the real world. How do we kind of catch up with the speed of things? Technology, That's good. I'm not the best at it. But put yourself where you can thrive, but then prioritize yourself. So transitioning into work, the office, doesn't mean that we forget about ourselves. So prioritizing our time, taking acknowledgement about what we need and how we feel about it. Our children's department also works within the Montgomery school system, which is really awesome. We get to go into the schools, middle schools, elementary schools, high schools. Those are a little dirty, especially coming back from after the holidays, everybody traveling. It was a little nerve-wracking at first for some of our therapists to be able to go into the schools. They're kind of like really disgusting. And kids tend to like create germs, I think. But we collectively came together as a team. We had that communication factor. And we decided, well, we're just going to take a week off. We're going to let everybody kind of transition back in, and then we'll go back. Then we alternated our schools. Then we alternated our schedules of how much we go into schools. My point to that is we communicated with each other to prioritize ourselves in the situation that we were to be able to reach these children. That goes back to being empty. I keep talking about being a therapist, that's what I do. We constantly pour out. Whatever field you're in, you're constantly pouring out. You're giving your all because we want to do our best. We're pretty awesome people. But at a certain point, we have to stop and still think about ourselves in those moments when we're giving it to other people. So how can we do some self-care at work? I'm going to bring more boundaries up, okay? So more boundaries. So leaving work at work is a really big thing that we talk about. But do we actually do it all the time? Not so much. Okay, so do it. So we might have to stay a little bit longer at work, but we're going to leave work at home. What about the drive home from work? Some people drive 15 minutes, 5 minutes. That's awesome for 5 minutes. 30 minutes. How about y'all use that time for yourself? Even if that's the only time you get, you're coming down from your work to sometimes go home and like work with what's going on at home. Some people love to jam out in their car and listen to music. I see you shaking your head. I like to drive with the car like quiet sometimes. It's weird. Sometimes I have jam out moments, but I talk to people every single day. Sometimes I don't want to hear anybody. So I have that moment to acknowledge my feelings, acknowledge my emotions. Sometimes I talk to myself. I give it a name. I give it a voice. I learn how to process it, and then I put it back, and I go on to my next thing. But I took that time for myself, even if it's driving in your car. Self-care doesn't have to be this big event. I have to go plan to go get my nails done, or I have to go plan to have these little breathing moments. Still breathe. It's really important. You need to breathe to live. And breathing does calm you down. But I want to be able to show you other practical things we can do in our busy lives. That stopping doesn't mean halting everything. Stopping means acknowledging, being mindful, and feeling your feelings, whether good or bad. Unlike working from home, like I said, we can leave work at home. So practice that. Be intentional with your time. Maximize your time at work. Build yourself. Maximize your time at home. Be at home, y'all. Like, that's most people's safe places. Take time there. Make it nice and cozy. Don't answer the phone. Don't answer the email. It will be there in the morning. Because it's going to be in the morning. And you're going to have to pay attention to it. So why not take the time for yourself? Essentially, talking about self-care and mental health, a lot of us have gotten a taste of that. I think I'm kind of grateful for that moment that we've had in isolation or having to transition to things. It causes us to look more inward, which is usually scary. We kind of forget about ourselves. But it's so important, you guys. If it's as easy as acknowledging it, giving a name, giving it a voice, and just stopping for 5 minutes, you have to do that and you have to feel it. Because we're important. We're all very important. We're all busy, empowered women and men, a few men here. Mothers, friends, and colleagues. Acknowledge and accept your emotional states. Things are not and will not always be easy. But how we handle these challenges not only defines us as a person, it's going to enhance those different aspects about our overall health and wellness. You're going to be able to enhance your emotional health, provide social growth, and secure our ability to balance this concept of mental health with our overall health and wellness. Thank you.
I'll be the first to say she was sticking some pins in me a couple of times. So here's the briefing. Boundaries and saying no. Gosh, that's hard. I know some people that are great at saying no. And because I have a giver's heart, I'm always giving. But today I heard so many times about be your own advocate. And so you have to know when it's time to slow down, when it's time to step away. Those dreams and the accomplishments, all those things that we're striving for will be there, but we have to pace ourselves. So find out what you need and who you need it from. And so a few speakers back, we talked about mentorship, but one of the greatest things that I've experienced, mentorship was, for me, not exactly someone saying, I'm your mentor. It's someone that I kept my eye on. And I watched from a peripheral view, and I saw the moves that she made and how she did it. And I was taking good notes. And I was like, I see how that is playing out in her life. So that's important. Acknowledge our emotions. When are we hangry? Because we haven't eaten and we're running around everywhere. When have we not slept? I didn't sleep well last night, but I'm going to sleep tonight. Sleep is important. These types of things help us so that we can bring our best selves to these institutions, organizations. And then Elia talked about social wellness. Applaud yourself and this whole thing of prioritizing you. The fact that you are in this room pouring into yourself today just makes me so happy. Can you just give yourself an applause for just being awesome women that you thought enough of yourself to say, I'm gonna take the whole day off. This is how I felt. I don't think I've ever taken the full day for International Women's Day. I think I've taken a morning or did a lunch or bought something, but no, this is really pouring into yourself. So thank you all for coming and for being here. We're going to have Ashley Jernigan close us out. And I just want to provide just a little context before she closes out. Remember, we're going to win legs. Don't escape on us. We are going to lunch. You will not want to miss this lunch.